All right, so now we have some attendees joining us.
Can I hear you? Can you hear me, Joanna?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
What's this now? Microphone.
Okay. Yeah. Please bear with us while we sort out the audio and video here. So, Michael, if you go to the audio settings, yeah, you're good now. All right, perfect. Yeah, I see we have a few attendees that have joined already, but I guess we're a few minutes early, so we should probably start or wait to start presenting until 10:30 sharp, I guess.
Yeah, we're waiting 3 minutes, more or less.
Yeah.
Webinar will start in 1 minute. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. Today we are going to talk about a topic that many of us face regularly. And this topic is foundation design. And more specifically, in this case, we will talk on how much it can be repetitive and time-consuming to do this simple task. And Simplex for Simplex API has been created with this in mind, solving this iterative clicking in a simple and more efficient way. And it happened to all of us that maybe a foundation was designed, and then at some point, maybe a column moves, maybe a load combination has been added, more loading condition has been created, and then it means that we need to create a new foundation analysis again from scratch. And our goal today is to show you that this can basically change. And the agenda for today is the following. We will do a brief introduction on Simplex Foundation for Grasshopper specifically. And we will show 3 different case studies. The first 2, they will be really, they will be something that you probably face regularly. And then as a bonus, we will show as this API and Grasshopper toolbox can handle several projects at the same time. And after this topic, we will show what is going to happen next. And then at the end of this webinar, we will have a Q&A session. And okay, what is Simplex? Simplex, first of all, is a series of toolboxes that works in the web. And what you see in the screen is Simplex Foundation, one of the very first Simplex toolbox that has been released by Strusoft. And Simplex Foundation, it will allow you to design and code check foundation. And as you can see, we have this really clean user interface where we can set up geometry, loading, soil properties, and so on. And yeah, this is great. It's working really perfect. But what happens, for example, if you have more than one foundation to design? What happens if you have maybe 200 load combination to run? And what happens actually when someone is going to change some of your loading? In this scenario, Strusoft has created a tool called Simplex Foundation API, which can be used for Grasshopper and in the future even for coding. What you saw before is Simplex Foundation in the web app. What you see here is what it looks like Simplex Foundation for Grasshopper. And the idea of the next slide is to show you how simple is it to create a script that can run programmatically a foundation. So we just need to create a few simple components. For example, we need to specify some project information like project and name of the project, description, location, and also the engineers. And this is how we can create a foundation geometry where we can specify the length, the height, and reinforcement. And the loading. Loading is probably where most of the input will go, because geometry usually is 1, but loading and combination loading can be more than 1. And this is how it can look like. And soil. So we have just these spaghetti components that they are interconnected with each other. And in this case, we can just create a flow that can run a foundation design, a foundation code check in a quick and simple way. And the same happens for settings. Settings, they are probably an advanced topic, and most of the time these ones are fine by default. The only one that maybe people want to change is the national annex. But we get you covered. What you can, if you get access to the web app, you also have access to the API. And after a project has been created, this is where we get the actions. So basically, we can run an analysis, but we can also run a design. Design means that we let our solver to find the most optimal solution. And let me show. And after this, we can then read the results. So the idea is to pre-processing, creating a model. Then we have a post-processing or processing, like running code, running design, and then after all, we can do post-processing, so getting results. And let me show you properly how it works with 2 little examples that you might want to use in your daily engineering job. The first one is doing Excel to Simplex, and the other one is FEM design, in this case API to Simplex. And I've created 2 ready examples. Let me show you if I do this. Okay, now you should be able to see the first example. Let's say that in your engineering daily job, you need to design a foundation. And as engineers, I mean, we use Excel a lot of time. I mean, even me that I'm doing most of the time coding, I still like to use Excel. And this means that maybe we can just create data in a tabular data. I mean, we can collect our data and format them in such a way that they are easy to read to our plugin. But this is just an example. I mean, the data can also come from a third-party software. It can also come from maybe an external engineers who use a different software. So the tabular data can be in any way. And let's say that this is what we get. With Grasshopper, for example, what we can easily do is to read this data using a specific component which can be installed through Package Manager. And while I'm saying Package Manager, sorry, I forgot to mention how to install our tool. Our tool is it can be easily installed from Rhino, just specifying Package Manager. These little windows will appear. You can just write Simplex or Strusoft, for example, and Simplex Toolbox will appear. You click install and you are ready to go. As soon as you have the tool installed, you will see these two little category tabs where you will get access to all the components that I showed you before through PowerPoint. But let's go back to our real case study. We have an Excel file that can be read in this way. And as you can see, the output will have Excel data. We can just organize our data in such a way where the first output will have the forces in X direction, Y, normal force, and bending moment. If I zoom out, you will see this big part of the script that is most likely to be always the same. And as you know, we want to avoid to have this repetitive task. So I can understand that can be kind of time consuming to create the Simplex Grasshopper script every time. So in order to get started, for example, and it also works for documentation and learning resources, if you click on Simplex, you will be able to get some templates like Simplex Foundation. And as soon as you click on this Simplex Foundation, you will get a ready script which you can use to start with. And the ready script that you can start with is basically what you see on the screen. But let's go back on our creating the loading, which is the most important part of our script. So as you can see, we have collected 11 values for fx, fy, fz, and these are the values that we actually see in Excel. So it's pretty easy to update Excel. We open the Grasshopper script and everything will be updated on the fly. So as you can see, we plug the right elements in the right components, and we now have the loading. And I can just show you briefly a little bit more about the foundation geometry, but this is the same as we have in the web app, where we can just specify the foundation width, the foundation length, the height, and eccentricities. Theoretically, this value can also transform Excel, but it really depends on the typical problem we are trying to face. And in this case, is checking a foundation through different foundation loading scenario. And as soon as we have all the inputs, like project info, geometry, loading, soil, where we can specify the soil stratum, and we specify the concrete soil settings, we can just plug everything together in our project, and now we can just decide to run it. So if I run it, this one will take maybe, now this time it took a little bit longer because of the webinar, but it can take like 3-4 seconds. And as soon as our project is run, we are able to get the foundation results. So most of the time, I mean, the most important number that we want to check is the max utilization. So every time you see an output in our Simplex and you want to read the data inside, if you are probably a new user, you tend to use this panel and you will see a big amount of text. But the way we have done it for Simplex was to make it really simple. So we created only one component that will be able to deconstruct any Simplex component. So I can click on this one, and yeah, so now I can see that the max utilization comes from the load case name called 5, and utilization is 0.83. So let's say that now the external engineers comes back with different loading. So maybe it will say, okay, I have a different one that is 10 minus 0.5. I mean, I will just put some random number just to show you that as soon as the script has been created, you can just use it. And this one, let's say, type ultimate. Okay, I will save it. Okay, the only things that now we need to do is to basically kind of push a button. The idea is to go back and say, okay, now my file is a new one. I will say read Excel. Now this one is start reading the new Excel file, the updated one. It will create new foundation loading and new results will be computed. And if I go look at visualization, it might be the same because I mean the new combination loading was pretty similar, but yeah, you get the point. Now we have a process where we can just straight away run the analysis. And let's say that the foundation that we created, I mean the foundation, it doesn't need to be code checked, but we want to design it. With Simplex, we can also do the design of a foundation. And how it works, instead of running a code check, what we do is to run what is called design. So in the design component, what we need to specify is the limit utilization and the constraint for foundation width, foundation length, and foundation height. So for example, in this one, as soon as I run it, this script, it will just check different scenario for the geometry, and it will give us back the most optimal one. As you can see, it took a little bit of time, but then we can see the output. So it says that the foundation should be 0.5 by 1.5 times 0.4. That's it. And as an output, we also get the embodied carbon, so which is a good number that we can use to see how the optimization is going. And as soon as we have the design, again, we can just perform a code check and run the results straight away. So this is just to show you how this script can be reused several times, starting from an Excel file. The second example that I want to show you is FemDesign API to Simplex. So let me show you how it works. I mean, as you know, FemDesign has a really vast and well coded API for Grasshopper, where we can get access to all kind of elements. And in this case, what we want to do is to just have a workflow that it will allow to take a model, and it doesn't matter if the engineers will modify it. The output will be always a new foundation. So let me show you what I meant. I will just open a file for FemDesign. As you can see now, this one is processing. And let's say that our file, our model looks like this. Okay, it's updating. Okay, it's actually also running straight away. Okay, it's running some nonlinear analysis. Okay. So as you can see, we have a model. Okay, it can be as complex as you want with some point foundation or Line Foundation, because Simplex, it can also run Line Foundation. For the webinar right now, for the first one, we are only covering Point Foundation. What we do through the API in Grasshopper is to get a model. Okay, we open it. In this case, we also run it because we didn't have the results. But what we get, what we do, and what we need actually to run a foundation design through the API is to get the reaction forces. As you can see, we are using this case combo results, which is a component specific to read the results. And we are asking to get back the point support reaction. The output will be a list of values in X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z for horizontal forces or for forces and moments. And the only things that we need to do is to reuse the previous script. What you see here is basically the same that we had before, but the only things that change is the way we need to plug the values in the loading components. So in this case, we are just doing some little data manipulation where we just want to basically flip the matrix in order to get the values in a way that our API can read it. And this means that, let's say that you are using a different software for maybe for bridges, for AFA calculation. That doesn't mean that you always need to use FemDesign API. Any software that will give you access to the reaction forces can be then used with our toolbox. So as you can see, I'm able to get the results in a tabular way, as we have done it from Excel. We can just plug them, and that's it. What happened is that this one will create a project, and we can just do the code check. And let me just do a code check. So the workflow is basically always the same. The most important part in our case is to be able to learn in how to format the data in a way that our toolbox can read it. In this case, there were quite a lot of foundation values, so it might take a little bit more. Let's wait a second. Okay. It should be finished. Okay, so the code check has been done. Now go to webinar, is loading down my laptop. Bear with me 1 second. And I will show you how to. Okay, I think this script is now running the design. Maybe let me show you, let me quickly close Rhino, or I can open a new one. Let's see. Sorry for that. Let's see. Because what I want to show you now is what happens if, and is more an advanced topic in this case, but what happens if you have more than one values coming from different foundation. Okay, I think Simplex is now back to life. 1 second, because the design is finished. Just to be safe, I can also run the new one. Okay, actually it's back. And what I want to show you is how you can, is like more a bonus exercise, but with API and with automation and with the use of data, we can just create more projects at a time. And this is what, for example, our Simplex Foundation API for Grasshopper or Simplex Foundation for Python will be able to do more than the web app. So with the web app right now, it's really simple to manage one project at a time, okay? But with API and with coding, this can be solved. It's a constraint that we don't have. So for example, just to give you an idea, what I'm doing here is, instead of specifying one foundation only, I'm specifying, example, 3 foundation, which one is 1 meter by 1, 2 meter by 2, and 3 by 3. I mean, this value can change. As soon as I plug this foundation geometry to the Iterate project, what you see as an output is going to be 3 different projects. So this is like having 3 different, let me show you this. It's equivalent to have Simplex Foundation. Let me log in. Okay. Having 3 projects in Grasshopper in the way I show you is like having 3 different windows open next to each other. So that's the analogy with Grasshopper. And as soon as we have several projects, what we can do is, for example, we can still code chat them, so we can work on them at the same time. But what we can also do is to save them programmatically. So, for example, I have 3 projects. I want to give them to different check engineers. I can just specify a file path created programmatically. In this case, from my model, I get the structure, I get the elements, and I get the information of geometry, the length, the width, and the height. And as you can see, I'm just saying, can you please save my project with this text 1 by 1, 0.4, so we can just encode our project. And if I show you, I can just go to the folder of the project, and we will see all the foundation. So this file can then be open in the user interface in case someone wants to properly check, or you maybe want to send this one to the local engineers or to another colleague. And this is what you can achieve with API. We can also just save more than 1 project at once. And last but not least, the first time that you will want to try Simplex Foundation and you try to run the analysis, in this case, this analysis, you might get an error. And the error will tell you, you didn't log in, please do it. And the way we do it is clicking to Simplex, login, and you will get this nice windows where you can just log in, and this one will show up. So if you don't have an account, you can sign up, and our product owner or our IAT will be in touch with you to be able to use it. And as soon as you have the credential, let me show you how it will look like. This one will update, and that's it. So it's pretty simple to log in. But let me show you what is going to happen next in the Simplex project. Let me do like this. Okay. What is going to happen next is to be able to visualize the project in a rendering view in Rhino. This means that it's going to be really easy to catch errors. We can send screenshot to our colleague, or we can use also this screenshot to our design clip when we do a project. And this one is going to happen in the next 1 or 2 months. And if you are into programming, 2 packages will be released. This one will be for C# users, and the other one will be for Python users. And okay, if you have question, please feel free to make them. We will be happy to reply.
All right, Marcos. So one of the questions, will example files and the presentation be made available after the webinar?
Correct. So the example, let me actually share my screen again. The example will be available, but this one brings a different topic as well. And because people actually, when they want to learn a tool, they need to get some content, some example file or some little documentation. And what you can do right now is to go to our, for example, Fan Design API documentation webpage. And if you click on the community page, this is like the place where you can ask any question about fan design. But in this case, we also have a section for Simplex. In this link that I will send you, you will be able to download fan design to Simplex and Excel to Simplex. And if you have any question, any feedback, this is the place to go.
Okay, and we have another question. Can borehole CPT information for foundation design be read?
Can you say again the question? Sorry, Jan.
Is it possible to read the borehole CPT information for foundation design? Maybe I can I could answer it. Because we know that in some countries it's the normal workflow to, instead of specifying soil layers, that the user does it themselves, they will read a CPT diagram, and the soil layer is automatically generated with the correct properties from this CPT diagram. And I think it would be possible to set up a workflow for that through Grasshopper, as long as there is a tabular format available with the data, so that there's some type of format that Grasshopper can read. But it's also something that we are planning to implement in the Foundation app itself in the future. So that will probably be a while. So I think the Grasshopper alternative is a good option for now.
Yeah, we will follow the workflow that we can use in the web app. Yeah.
Maybe I can ask you, Einash, who posed this question, what country you're located in, because that would be interested for us to know. If you could write in the questions, that would be nice. So moving on to the next question. Can the Simplex add-on design the steel to concrete connection detail, or only the concrete foundation?
Sorry, Ayana, I lost 1 second the audio.
Yes. Can the Simplex add-on design the steel to concrete connection detail, or only the concrete foundation?
Okay, now with the API, we can design the concrete geometry, so we can vary the length, the width, the height. And in the same way that we can optimize for geometry, we can also optimize for reinforcement. So we can specify the type of material, the type of range in diameter, and also, if I recall correctly, also the step between the rebar. So yeah, you get cover for both type of optimization. And the current workflow is to do, if you want to optimize for both, is to do one optimization at a time. So you do geometry and then reinforcement. But I know that our team is also working hard in making the optimization more combined. So you can optimize for both properties at the same time, if needed.
Exactly, yes. And if you are interested in the specific detail between the column and the foundation for the column footing steel plate, that's not inside the scope of foundation. So just to clarify that part is not in it, but reinforcement is. And then there's another question. So if you create 3 projects at the same time as you showed, is it possible to have different loads on those 3 foundations, like extract 3 different sets of loads and then design a foundation for each set?
Yeah, I understand the question. And yes, it's possible. It's just a matter of understanding the data structure for Grasshopper. And just to clarify a little, this is more project. And as you can see over here, let me disable for a second this part that is not necessary for the explanation. But the answer is yes, and how you do it is the following. So basically, when we create a project, the idea is to provide one project, one foundation, and several loading. And the way I can say that we need to provide several loading is not because I'm a developer and I know it, and it's because it's written loading as a list. So as you can see, loading should be a list, soil just an item, setting item, foundation item. So that means that if we give different foundation, for example, the way I will do it is like this. So we can just do maybe. So this is now is a bit more clear. So we have 3 different projects for 3 different foundation. At loading, in this case, they will be applied to the same foundation. If you will be able to just create this data tree that looks like 0, 1, 2, the same for loading, that means that what is inside the data tree 0 will go in the foundation 0. So just to show you quickly what you need to get, if I go maybe to the loading, now I just do copy and paste to make it dirty and quick. Okay, let me remove this and to make it a little bit more clean. But this is your end goal. If you have 3 projects, what you need to have is to have 3 different foundation loading. So as you can see here, now if I go to loading, I can see 3 data tree, 0, 1, 2. If I go to loading, I simplify, I can still see 0, 1, 2. So every foundation, it will have its own loading. So if you want to extend, this means that, for example, from Excel, you can have different worksheet, for example, and for every worksheet, you can have information about each different foundation. So this is where Grasshopper and API can get really, really useful. I mean, I wouldn't say to use the API for one foundation only. I mean, even if you have maybe 10 loading, I mean, you can still do it by hand. But as soon as you see this automation process for your project, yeah, API is the way to go.
Okay, and I think I have one more question. So is it possible to get a trial for this, the Grasshopper plugin and Simplex Foundation?
Yeah, I mean, for Grasshopper, the tool is free to download. You can install this straight away from Package Manager, and it will ask you to do a login. And then for the trial, I think Johanna can explain you how to actually, how does it work actually.
Yeah, so you have to, if you get the trial for Simplex Foundation, you will automatically be able to use that also for the Grasshopper API, right? And to sign up for a trial, I think the easiest way is to go to, maybe I can share my screen. Let's see. Just need to figure out how to do that. So I can't share my screen, Marco, but you can do it instead. If you just go to strusoft.com.
Yeah.
And you go to software and Simplex Foundation, there you can click for a free trial.
Yeah, over here.
Yeah, exactly. And because Marco is already in the software, it doesn't work for him, but you will get a form to fill in and it will create a trial for you. Okay. I don't think there are any other questions that we haven't answered already or that you haven't answered throughout the webinar. So yeah, maybe that's it for the Q&A session for now.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that, that's, it's all for today, and thanks for joining. And we hope that this session gives you like a new perspective on what is possible with automation in foundation design. And this is just the beginning. The tool will be updated. For example, the PTC, as someone mentioned, will be probably part of the toolbox later on. And yeah, we will follow up with all the materials, even though the link that the fan design community page already have the example. And if you're curious to try out, we just show you how to start with a free trial. And then have a great day and speak soon.